Breach and clear. I am just imagining the Bungie seasonal artifact round table talking about grenade launchers, just being like, what if Anarchy, but also tractor cannon? And then just an eruption of applause as terrible laptop and webcam microphones clip and peek over insert your choice of webcam meeting based software. As if we needed another reason to use Anarchy in this game, we now not only have Unstoppable Grenade Launcher this season, but now Breach and Clear. Breach and Clear is one of the premier Season 14 seasonal artifact mods that essentially turns your grenade launcher into a long-range tractor cannon, placing a debuff that increases the damage that a boss, a champion, or an enemy with some sort of elemental shield will receive. The proc will also reload all stowed weapons. This power does come at a cost. You will need to use 9 energy on your class item, but fortunately, that last point can still be used on something good like Shield Break Charge or Global Reach or the seasonal artifact version of Blast Radius or Argent Ordnance. If you don't want any of those, then, +5 of a stat if you want to. This debuff is a global debuff, meaning it applies to everyone, not just the person applying the debuff. It only lasts for what can be described as an unnaturally long time, 10 seconds. For example, sticking Anarchy to a target will debuff the target for basically the exact amount of time that Anarchy will stick on that target before exploding. If you plant 2 Anarchy spikes in the ground and a target runs into the arc damage that they create, they will be affected by the debuff. The same goes for Witherhoard. A Witherhoard pool will proc the debuff if an enemy walks into the pool. The auto-loading portion of the mod only happens if you get a new debuff on the target. Part of the mod says, if you do the thing, hit a boss, champion, break shield, your stowed weapons reload. This does not mean that you can just shoot a boss with a grenade launcher and have all of your weapons reload every single time you hit with a grenade launcher, unless the debuff has fallen off. The debuff does not refresh. You need to let it run out first, and then you can apply it again. But if someone else applies the breach debuff to a target and then you shoot the same target, also trying to debuff and or proc your reload effect, you will still proc the reload effect on yourself, even if the damage boost buff does not show up. This makes it not a complete waste if someone else is already trying to do the debuffing. Can we please get a couple of targets in the open world that can survive more than 2 seconds against 2 grenade launcher shots so I can test this a lot easier? What does this stack with?
Absolutely.
At least in terms of debuffs. Obviously, you can still benefit from a buff on yourself, Weapons of Light, Well of Radiance, etc., but debuff stacking is not a thing. It hasn't been for a while, so this is not unexpected. You can imagine the implications that this has for boss damage and champion damage for Season 14. Assuming you're the only person running the mod, this allows you to have auto-reloading anything that you want. You also don't need Anarchy to apply the debuff. You can use a different grenade launcher, preferably with auto-loading on it already, so that you don't have to reload at all. You get the benefit of having someone using tractor cannon, but without them having to use tractor cannon. But what about Divinity? That does make things a little more complicated. Ultimately, the choice between Divinity and Breach and Clear comes down to how easy it is to crit a boss or a target, and what weapons are currently the meta, or what weapons you're currently using to kill said boss or champions. If you're using swords, that is an easy Breach and Clear decision. If you're using Xeno, that's Breach. If you're using rockets, that's Breach. If a boss does not have a very difficult to hit crit spot, that is also Breach. And after looking at all of the raid bosses in the game right now, while Breach and Clear is available, you should be using Breach and Clear. There are only a couple of fights where I would still recommend Divinity, and that is Sanctified Mind, Taniks, and maybe Atheon, depending on what the meta ends up looking like for Vault of Glass. Sanctified Mind can occasionally have some really weird movement in the damage phase that results in not being able to hit the crit spot. But if you're using Xenophage for damage, then obviously Breach and Clear will work just fine, as you're just looking for the debuff. Taniks is absolutely going to stay Divinity, at least if you're using double slug shotguns. Shooting Taniks in the head with a slug shotgun is a very inconsistent experience, making Divinity a very good idea to provide a stable crit zone for everyone to shoot. As for Vault, I'm writing this before Vault goes live, so we don't actually know what the fights will be like in the live game. However, considering all of the information that we've been given about VOG and what it will probably look like, I'm going to make some judgment calls here. Templar, kind of a toss-up. Templar's crit isn't the hardest to hit crit, but thanks to the teleport mechanic, Templar's going to be spinning around a whole lot, looking at different areas to try to shoot people, blocking teleports and all that. That makes Divinity kind of appealing, depending on where the crit spot ends up showing up on the boss. But if rockets end up being the meta, you're not going to need a crit spot, giving the edge to Breach and Clear. Atheon, on the other hand, had a pretty annoying to hit crit spot in Destiny 1, combined with Atheon's potential to just dance around the arena depending on what weapons you're using, if you're throwing grenades, supers, whatever. If you're using precision weapons for Atheon, I think Divinity will end up being the play. If not, Breach is going to be the play, but it really just depends on how easy it is to hit Atheon's crit. So how about Master and GM Nightfalls? Well, considering the insane versatility of grenade launchers this season, there is very little reason to run Divinity over Breach and Clear strictly when it comes to debuffing targets for bonus damage. Obviously, if you need Overload and not Unstoppable, you might swing towards Divinity, especially considering your Overload offerings this season are SMG, hand cannon, and like arc grenades. I think that's it, and Divinity. But otherwise, Anarchy is just one of the best weapons in the game for GM Nightfalls, arguably the best, and now they just gave it Tractor Cannon and Unstoppable Rounds. I am really going to miss using Dead Man's Tale this season, but that is just too good of an offer. You can't afford not to buy it. All in all, if you're using a grenade launcher in any activity, Breach and Clear should more or less be stapled to your class item for the entire season. It will make boss killing very easy. It will make champion killing very easy. It will make master and GM content easier. And you don't really need to change your playstyle that much, if at all, in order to compensate. This is free damage, not only for you, but for everyone you group with for the next 3 months. Enjoy it while it lasts. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.